Metamorphosis on the Sunset Strip. Now, there's an interesting clip in the Guns N' Roses Welcome to the Jungle video, and it's kind of documenting, Axl Rose, landing in Hollywood, and all the sights he sees, the working girls on the street, the trash, all of that. But there's a moment in time where he's getting off the bus, the Greyhound bus that took him into town, and he's got a piece of straw in his mouth and a flannel and his ball cap and his hair straight and all that, and he sees a TV in a window, and he sees, I believe it's his own image with the poofed out hair and on stage. And he's looking at that and kind of shaking his head like, what is this? That's the exact same thing that me and my roommate did. Two guys from Virginia moving out to Los Angeles. Now, I moved first, and I didn't plan on having a roommate, but after a few months, I get the call, hey man, I lost my gig, my top 40 gig, I'm coming out to LA. I didn't know that meant I'm moving in. But, two guys from Virginia, my buddy he looked like Alan Jackson. He had a mustache and like a mullet and like, the wings, the Farrah Fawcett kind of wings in the hair and mullet. And, we were hicks from Virginia. And I had hair a little bit, maybe pretty close to what I have here right now. And we just, you go out, we're there to become rock stars or get into the music business or whatever it was we thought we would be able to do when we were out there. I'm not even sure at this point what we were really looking for, but we would pick up issues of Music Connection, or we'd pick up, the local rock mags, and we'd start thumbing through the ads, and we're looking at these guys with, makeup on and their hair and the spandex and all this, and we're going, man, what is this? Like, why do all these guys look the same? Why is it this? What is going on here? And we were not, we were not hip, as they would say, because we didn't look anything like that. And it was the same thing of Axl Rose getting off that bus with the straw in his mouth and seeing this, and man, what is this? What is that on that TV? But I had seen Van Halen, and I knew what David Lee Roth, looks like. But, Michael Anthony always had more of a everyman's, haircut. And, David Lee Roth was David Lee Roth. And, by the time I got out there, Roth had already left Van Halen, and it was, a Skyscraper was out. I think that was one of the early CDs that I bought when I was out there. But, the Sunset Strip was still cooking with the same, LA metal, vibes and the LA metal look. So, I spent a year going to GIT. My buddy, John, he had to get a job. So he worked at a local photo processing place, walking distance from where we were staying. We're living in Hollywood. And, GIT was such a crazy scene then, because you had the rockers, and you had the musos, and I've talked about that before, the difference between a rocker and a muso, and I was always kind of a muso, that liked to rock. I like playing rock music just like anybody, but man, I don't really care what kind of music I have to play. I'm happy playing anything, man. That's been the one thing that has kept me going all these years. So, I'm noticing, there were guys that would show up for school with their hair completely, sprayed and dyed in and wearing spandex and, the kind of belts that you would wear around spandex, loose forming belts, and they'd wear their cowboy boots and chains and wristbands and all this. This is how they would dress to go to school. They would literally be dressed like they were going on stage. And there were guys like, I remember, guys that would come in and they weren't, we were all there you should have been there to learn something, but they would just thought that they would get discovered there. There was this one German guy, and he went in, he'd go in the little practice cubicle, and he'd crank the amp, the little PV practice amp or crate or whatever it was. He'd go in there and crank the gain all the way up, turn the volume all the way up. And he'd go in that room and just, trying to get attention. And people would stop by and look for a minute and just go, okay, now what? And he thought he was going to get, famous just going in there and see, look how fast I can play. And man, it wasn't anything memorable. It was what they call wank. But, it was, a guy like that, I never really ever noticed him again after people kind of saw what he did. And nobody really, I never really saw him do anything after that. I don't think, he was placed very high, because you got placed there. They would evaluate your playing. And, I went in, I had a guy evaluate me. He was from Australia, and, a nice guy. And, he'd say, hey man, okay, play me a major 7 chord. So I'd play a major 7 chord. Okay. Play me a dominant 7 chord. Okay. Play me a major scale. Okay. Play me a major scale. Okay. Play some blues licks. Okay. Here's some blues licks. Okay. Now here's a chord chart. Can you play along to this? I'll go, okay. Here's the chord. Playing the chord chart down. He says, all right. He says, man, you're good, man. I'm going to place you in the, I think it was 1B. So there was one group above me, which is 1A or something like that. I was cool with that because, there's a lot of pressure when you're in the top group, but I knew if I was in, 1B, which was, there were going to be other good players in that group, and I was going to be able to kind of learn at my own pace, maybe not at the super, super fast pace, but still I was up there. So I felt good about that. And I was like, man, I'm cool with 1B, I don't have a problem with that. So, I was at the school, and, my hair it grows and it grows. And I started to have this little flip out kind of like mullet, it was in real ragged shape, worse than it is today, if you can believe that. And, I'd be playing in these, they had these labs where you'd be, rock lab or performance lab or stuff like that. And I can remember playing Little Wing in one of the performance labs, and there was this bass player I think his name was Carlos, and he had been a veteran of the Miami music scene, and you could tell he'd done some partying back in the day. He'd talk about it. Oh man, I was in Miami, man. Oh man, it was wild, man. And so I would notice, like when I would play a solo, he'd put his head down. It's like he was feeling and listening to what I was playing. And man, he comes up, he said, man, you play good, man, but you play wild. You're gonna lose a lot of gigs. It's like, I was just, what can you say to that? I don't, I get now what he was trying to say, and he may have been right, but I was shooting for the stars in those days, man. I was trying to forge my own path, and I can remember playing, over Little Wing. When I get to the G, I was playing this 3-octave, arpeggio and kind of running up the neck. And I'm sure I was playing wild. I'm sure I absolutely was. But I could already play when I got there. For me, going to GIT was just learn some more things, keep working, have a little more time, so that when I'm done, I'll be ready to get out in the world and play whatever I needed to play. So I can remember this same class, played with this, African-American drummer. I think his name was Butch, I think. A nice guy, man. We ended up, playing a lot together in the labs. And I had experience playing R&B and funk. And so I was able to, go there, on some of those tunes that we would play. And, but he said, when I first saw you play, man, I said, man, that hick can play. He says, but man, you got to get some style, man. You got to get some style. I'm going to take you to a salon. I'm going to get your hair cut. I'm thinking, like, what is this guy talking about? But yeah, man, I didn't have any style to my hair. My hair was flipping out in the back. It was like a mullet and all this stuff. So he took me to this salon, and it was $100 haircut. I can't think of the name of it, but it was, it was one of these, frou-frou, fancy places. And, some guy was cutting my hair, and, they shampoo your hair, and they, he cuts it all, but, he cut it short. He cut it short like like I was going to be auditioning for, a soap opera or something like that. But, it was a good haircut. And yeah, I had a good haircut for a little while. But, that was kind of the experience. Look, we were there, man. We were just guys from Virginia, trying to fit in LA. And of course, this was the time of the heavy metal and all that. So really, I should have just kept growing the hair is what I should have probably done. But I didn't really understand the concept of image and how important that was in Los Angeles. Image was everything. And, like Axl Rose, coming to town and seeing these ridiculous looking, guys in these rock magazines, sucking in their cheeks and the eye makeup and the, Aquanet hair, the spandex and all this. I didn't really realize all that. So, I continued on and kind of gradually, tried to find gigs and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't have the right image to start playing the strip right away, man. At this point, my hair was short. And, I did really good at school. At GIT, I played the graduation ceremony. I wrote a fusion piece, and I was picked by Tommy Tedesco and Ralph Humphreys and, maybe one or two other of the instructors picked to perform at the graduation ceremony. So that was really great. I wish I'd given them a VHS tape so that I could have a copy of that. And the guy never made my tape, and then I was gone. So I have no video of that. But back then they had professional footage, and they shot of the graduation ceremony and our performance and all that. And I remember hearing from like Ralph Humphrey saying, man, you can really play. So, man, that was kind of and my mom came out for the graduation ceremony, and she saw my performance. She says, well, yeah, you're way too much for Williamsburg, Virginia, my hometown. They're not ready for you there. So, I was on my way in Los Angeles, and, went through, a year or so, and had day jobs and, tried to play some gigs and stuff like that. But, at some point, my hair was starting to get long, and I got the idea to get a perm. I was down in Temecula and got my hair permed. And that was kind of setting me up for the hairstyle that would get me into a Sunset Strip band. And I started I got my job in the pawn shop, and I started hanging out in Hollywood, and, just going to bars and dating and doing all that kind of stuff, but not really playing. It's almost like I had forgotten what I was there for. LA is very distracting. But eventually, I was confronted, told that I had no ambition by a girl I was dating. And that's when I knew I'm supposed to be out here playing music. And so, I had medium length hair, but it was permed in kind of a Kip Winger style. And everybody thought, say, hey man, that guy looks like Kip Winger. So I would, eventually, because of the girlfriend, basically saying you're not good enough for me, I went and auditioned for my Sunset Strip band. And then all of a sudden, I am the guy in the magazine, just like Axl Rose, looking at himself in the mirror, essentially, at what he's going to become, and shaking his head. And my old roommate, he grew his hair out, and all of a sudden, he gets in a Sunset Strip band, and they say, man, they want me to shave my mustache. I said, well, man, shave it off, bro. Shave it off. And he grew his hair out, and he took professional photos, and they teased his hair all out. He was blonde. And by this time, you take the mustache off and you've got the hair and you're blonde. Man, that's they like that. And the Sunset Strip likes that. So he's all of a sudden in these photos, doing the typical, the sucked in cheek pose, I call it. You suck in your cheeks, which makes your lips pout. And all of a sudden, instant rock star. We used to make fun of that before I even moved out to LA. Me and Reggie Wooten and James Genus, we'd always walk around, anytime someone would take a picture of us. So here's me, and I'm in my rock band, and I've got my photos with my, my hair, tweaked out, and and my old roommate is now in a hair band, and he's got it shaved his mustache off, and now he's got the teased out hair, and that very thing that we had kind of poked fun at and saw, like, what is this? Why do they all look the same? And what's going on with that? Now, all of a sudden, we're exactly like that. We're just like Axl Rose in the, Welcome to the Jungle video, looking at his future in the TV and just shaking his head. And, at the end of the video, there he is, and he's got his makeup on and his hair, teased out, and he's walking down Hollywood Boulevard. You have to adapt to survive. And, at that point in time, we were just looking for playing situations. We were trying to get into something, and we bought into the Rockstar fantasy. And that is why, whether it's going to your first school or going to your job or going whatever, you're going to conform. The Rush song, Conform or Be Cast Out. You're going to conform to the uniform of the day and of the time, and you're going to try to adapt your image to fit into the image that is needed to get the gig. And that's the corporate world, that's in the rock and roll world, that's in the farming world. I mean, you don't see many farmers, out on the farm with spandex and cowboy boots and teased out hair. They're good old boys, and they wear their plaid shirts and their John Deere caps and their stained and ripped blue jeans, and it's a uniform. And that's the reality. You have to adapt and evolve to make it on the Sunset Strip. And before long, that image that you were laughing at and making fun of, you just become another one, just another face in the crowd.